Welcome to Sage Advice, Superhumans, and Storytelling, a podcast series developed for high school seniors preparing to enter the adult world. In this series, we interview real-world superhuman experts who have been there and done that, and who are willing to tell their narratives in order to share sage advice for post-secondary life. Welcome to our next episode here. On this episode, I have Jessica Herbst, who has quite the impressive resume. She has a bachelor's in accounting and sports management with a minor in marketing. She's got a master's in international business relations. She's from a tiny town in eastern Colorado called Joe's. I'll put up a little map here, but it's nearly on the border, way on the edge over on that eastern side there. But she's lived in Boulder, Colorado. She's lived in the Springs. She's been working for the Olympic Committee for a scabillion years now. She'll detail that, but that's been her main career since graduation, which is cool. She's traveled the world because of that, which is amazing. And she also happens to be a high school track coach, which, I'm a fan of. So hi, Jess. How's it going?
Hi. Well, how are you?
I am fantastic. So you have a pretty kind of impressive life story, in my personal opinion. I think that you're a really good example of somebody who's found a lot of success. And I think a lot of your success, not only are you already just a bright human being, an awesome person, but I think, you've probably had to work hard for a lot of those things. So let's just get started. Tell us a little bit about you and your story and, how you got to where you are now and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So first of all, I think it's all really relative. When you say success, I think it's really hard to define success, but thank you. I appreciate that. Like she said, I'm from a really small town. I think the population of my hometown is about 300 people.
Ooh.
It's in eastern Colorado. Yeah, we're tiny. I graduated high school with 5 people, and one of those individuals was a foreign exchange student from Thailand. So technically I graduated high school with 4 people. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. When I was in high school, super involved. I played every sport there was. I was in every club there was. I mean, I don't know if you guys have FFA up there.
Oh, right.
But it is Future Farmers of America. So I was literally in every club that there was.
That's awesome.
So yeah, FBLA, so Future Business Leaders of America, FCCLA, I think was Family Consumer. I don't even remember what that was, but I was in it, guys. And I think that's really, really kind of directed my life, because ever since high school, I've involved myself in everything I possibly could. And I've tried to give myself opportunities when opportunities weren't available. And I think creating opportunities for yourself is the most important thing you can do, and no one has control over the opportunities you give yourself. So after high school, I graduated and I went to college on a track scholarship. I came from a pretty low income family, and I had to find a way to create that opportunity that I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted a college degree, and I knew that I wanted to study business. And I was really, really passionate about sports. So fortunately, I was blessed with long legs and a fast 400 time.
Yeah.
So I was recruited. We live life a quarter mile at a time over here. But I was recruited to run track at the University of Colorado. I ran all 4 years. And I was actually recruited to run the Open 400, and I ended up doing the heptathlon, which was a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's
but I think
change.
Yeah, but that goes on to say that I like to be involved in everything. And my coach was like, hey, do you want to try it? And I was like, why not? Like, what is there to lose? So I did, and I loved it. I loved every part of it. And I think that doing the heptathlon collegiately kind of put me into coaching, because at that point I had literally been involved in every aspect of the sport. I mean, I was a 110-pound girl throwing the shot put. So
that is something we need to highlight as just impressive. Yeah, I'm picturing
it was impressive. Just
talking the. Were you okay at shot?
No, I was terrible. Luckily, all of the points came from the 800, which I was good at. And then I actually saw a lot of success in the jav just because the motion was related to volleyball.
Yeah.
And so I was good in that throwing aspect, but no, shot was not a moneymaker for me.
No.
So yeah, that's kind of what I did in college. What else? I tell people this a lot, and I'm in a mentor program here in Colorado Springs, so I mentor a lot of college students now. But while I was in college, I had a full-time coursework, I was running full-time, and I also had a full-time job. So as I was saying earlier, you have to create those opportunities for yourself. And I will say this, and I hope that this is true. I will probably never work as hard a day in my life again as I worked while I was in college. My parents weren't paying my bills. They weren't paying for my degree. They were supportive and they were very helpful. They just didn't have the means to help do that. And so I had to do that for myself. And so I was primarily without any student debt. And that's only because I had that job on the side.
Wow. So, just for people who don't understand that, I mean, I've got a lot of people who are going to see this who have never been to college. That is a huge undertaking to do all of that. I mean, I did college sports for a year and I ended up stepping away from that simply because I wanted to have, I didn't understand that concept of sacrifice as a, 18, 19-year-olds. I wanted to have the friends and everything else and live the college, standard college life where I got to actually have time. You probably had no time. And that is so impressive that at such a young age, you were just like, nope, I'm going to grind it out. I'm going to make it happen because if I don't, I can't. I just can't. And to not give up in a moment like that is pretty awesome. So.
Thanks. I definitely made up for having fun after I graduated college. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, after all of that, you're probably like, oh my gosh, all right, now I've earned it, right? Instead of just jumping in and saying, oh, I'm the world owes me this. I can have all the fun. Well, no, you had that understanding that was your foundation. So that's incredible. So through that, I mean, it sounds like you did have a lot of successes. Do you feel like, on the road from then to now that you've had setbacks and you've had challenges that have made you kind of question if you were able to do that, or you have moments where you're just kind of like, I'm doubting myself now. Like this is tough. I don't know if I can make it through.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everyone certainly doubts themselves at some point. I'm a planner, and I probably had this planned out when I was 14 years old, and I was like, Mom, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And these are the steps I'm going to take to make this happen. But certainly there are setbacks. I mean, financially, mentally, I remember on my very first day of track practice, and I grew up on the Eastern Plains, so there is an altitude, but not like there is here up on the Front Range. And our coach had us running repeats of this very steep hill. And I got in my car and I called my mom. I think it was on a BlackBerry. So it wasn't a flip phone, but it was a BlackBerry. I very distinctly remember this. And I called her just bawling. Like, Mom, I cannot do this. This is so hard. I'm not as good as these people. I'm not as fast or as strong as these people. I don't have the same background as these people. And I just remember, like, I had a breakdown on my very first day of practice. And then I had to tell myself, like, okay, if you want to get your degree, this is how you're going to pay for it. Like, at that point, I didn't even know how probably to apply for a student loan, which, obviously I learned later, but just they don't really teach you how to apply for loans in high school. Maybe they do now. I don't know. So mentally, I was just telling myself, like, no, this is what you have to do to make this happen. And I did. I was really vulnerable, and I went to my coach and I was like, look, I'm scared. Like I was a big fish in a very small pond for a really long time. Like I was, the class president, everything, like anything you could be, I was it. And it was really hard to be a small fish in a big pond.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of time for me to adjust to that. a lot of time. But I did, and I made it work, and I made friends with the right people, and I worked my tail off every single day. I worked my tail off, and if I had a bad workout or a bad race, it would affect my entire week. Like, oh my gosh, I'm performing poorly here, so now like I'm in a funk and I'm performing terribly in my classroom too. And that was really, really hard for me, because I kind of made sport the priority because that's what was getting me through school. And so if I was doing poorly, I'd be like, they're not going to renew my scholarship. All these things are going to happen. I won't get a run next week. And I was putting a lot of pressure on myself there my freshman year. That academically I wasn't performing the way that I wanted to. So I really had to work through that.
Yeah, for sure. So just speak a little bit about your job now. A pretty unique career. I have a lot of appreciation for it simply because, I'm big into sports. It's super ironic, the synchronicity of life, man. Another person that I'm interviewing today is also from Colorado. And then another person that I'm interviewing today is an Olympic diver from Brazil. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, speak a little bit about your job now. What's that like? What do you love about it? Why did you choose it? Anything.
Yeah. So honestly, I don't really feel like I chose it. I kind of feel like it chose me, as silly as that sounds. It was just kind of fate and timing. With my degree, I had to have an internship, and with my schedule, as I discussed before, there was not enough time in the day to have an internship. So my track coach knew someone at USA Karate, and he gave him a call, and he was like, look, I have this girl. She needs hours in order to graduate. Can you help? And he did, and it worked out really well. And upon graduation, they hired me. Now, that's not typical, and I don't think that you as high school students should expect that. I think it's not probable at all that you will get hired directly out of college to an internship to this awesome job. And I was just really lucky and really fortunate, and it was just fate and timing and all those things kind of came together. So I graduated. I started my career at USA Karate, which is a national governing body, which we call an NGB. We use a lot of acronyms in this world. So when I say NGB, that's what I'm referring to. And it was a really, really small NGB. So again, back to being a big fish in a small pond, I was given a lot of opportunities to learn a lot of things about the business very, very quickly. And so one of my biggest roles at USA Karate is they were not an Olympic sport at the time. And so I helped write the bid and the procedures to have them become an Olympic sport. And that passed in 2015, I think. Time flies. I think it was 2015.
That was right around the time that I had met you when that happened. So yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, that was really, really big, and that was pretty monumental for my career. And then at that time, I kind of moved on to a bigger NGB. So now, technically, I work for, trying to think of the best way to explain it. So in Colorado Springs, we have the U.S. Olympic Committee, and they govern all the sports. Okay. So now I work for U.S. Skating, which is one of the biggest sports that we have.
Yeah.
So just club memberships and the grassroots programs are really, really big. I only work with Olympic level athletes here. I work primarily in funding and logistics, and then high performance. So we write the high performance plan. Who is our pool of athletes? What steps are they going to take to be on the Olympic team, basically? And that's just kind of how I thrive personally. Like, what do we have and what do we need to do to make this happen? And I think I've said that a few times, but that's just kind of how my brain works. And so I think that this role right now is really suited towards me and my strengths.
For sure.
So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. Things have been a little bit crazy recently with all of the things going on today, as I was discussing earlier, but we're working through all of the adversity, and I think that our athletes will definitely come out stronger, hopefully on top. So yeah.
And
do you want more?
you just became a mom, so that's also kind of a big deal. Worlds, please understand, this lady is a mom. She's a go-getter. She's a boss lady. That I just, yeah, I admire that so much about you. So looking back at your life, you know, we're still young, luckily, but you've packed in a lot at this point. What's some advice that you would give to yourself as a high school student, you know, right as you were about to leave Joe's Colorado on that track scholarship? What's something that you wish you would have known or understood about either yourself, the people around you, your community, your future, anything? What do you think that would be?
A couple things. First of all, I wish I would have told myself that I do not have to be perfect. I've been a perfectionist my entire life. You know this. You're very well versed in this. But yeah, everything I did had to be perfect, and if it wasn't perfect, I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of pressure on myself to be perfect, and it's something that I've had to work through to not be that way.
For sure.
And then aside from that is, I think something really important for you guys is you come from a small community. And you're really fortunate to have that, because that small community will forever support you. I think if you come from a big city, you don't always have those people to lean back on. But guys, I could drive 3 hours and go home and have like this huge group of people with open arms welcoming me back home. Like, oh my gosh, how are you? How are things? And you're so fortunate to have that. And you have, I'm sure, at your school, you have probably like smaller community scholarships, like
Absolutely.
Lions clubs, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So you have a lot of opportunities that people in big cities aren't granted, and I think it's really important that you create those opportunities for yourself and you make it happen, because no one can do that but yourself. But yeah, so that's a big one, is you don't have to be perfect. And you have people in your corner. Even if you feel alone and like there's no one there to help you, I promise you there are people in your corner. Your teachers, your coaches, your friends, people that you probably don't even know look up to you. Like if you're an athlete, I'm sure there are people who've been to every single game you've ever competed in, and they know your stats, and they are there for you. And if you need a letter of recommendation, there are probably so many people in your community that you don't even know that would do that for you. So that's huge, because it's a lot of times to be quite frank, I would put myself on this pedestal and I didn't even want to ask for help.
Yeah.
And when I finally grew up and realized that if I would use those resources and use those people in my community and that community that I built, I was so much happier and so much more successful.
For sure. You know, there's something to be said for being okay with asking for help. You know, I see that a lot, you know, students, but not only students, friends afraid to ask for help because it may be a sign of weakness or whatever else. You know, I think that I found in particular, once I started asking for help and being a little bit more humble, life was so much easier for me. Imagine that, asking for help and you receive the help.
Yeah. And this went into my mid-20s. I mean, I just did not ask for help ever.
Oh yeah.
And now that it's like life-changing. I couldn't imagine being a new mom now and having a full-time career and hobbies and still trying to like balance everything. I could not imagine not having the availability to ask for help. It's mind-blowing that I never did.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, do you have any other parting words, any other words of advice or thoughts you want to share before we end this deal?
Not really. I think just keep your head down and do the work and you'll see the success, and ask for help and create opportunities for yourself, because the opportunities that you create for yourself, nobody can take away from you. And I think that's really big to know and really big to keep telling yourself. And if you feel like you don't have opportunities available to you, go to your teachers and ask for those resources and see what is available to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And I love your story, and I love that you agreed to do this for us. So thank you.
Of course, anytime. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Adios, lady.